Why do I see two pictures of myself?
Facing, what are you talking about?
Check 1, 2, check 1, 2, 1, 2.
Like when you open the door to go outside, it's Coco must have clawed or Coco must have gotten her nails into it and pulled it. Send me a picture of it.
All right, I'm missing. I've been.
I'll Venmo it.
Okay. I need to sign in. You wanna?
Mayor, Tom is going to do the invocation for me.
I know. Thank you, Carl.
I didn't know if we knew.
It's a very professional day.
Would wait till I get local.
Well, that's not.
Good evening. I would like to call to order today's meeting on April the 20th, 2021 for our Little Rock City Board of Directors. We would like to welcome those that are in attendance, as well as those that are at home or streaming online. Also like the time to take to recognize Director Hendricks as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Hendricks. Madam Clerk, would you please read the roll?
Director Hendricks,
Present.
Director Richardson,
Here.
Director Webb. Here. Director Peck. Here. Director Wright. Director Wyrick.
Present.
Director Campuris. Director Phillips.
Here.
Director Adcock.
Present.
Vice Mayor Hines.
Present.
Mayor Scott.
Present. Director Cappy Peck has asked that City Attorney Tom Carpenter conduct our invocation.
Please join me. We are gathered together tonight in a room full of people who wish to give. They wish to give of themselves for others. Their wisdom, their concerns, their ideas, their thoughts will not all be alike. But everyone in this room shares this willingness to give. To be successful, we need light. Light for our minds so that we can see what is being said. And light for the will to do what we think is right and to follow through on it. We need to be able to console. We need to be able to work. We need to be able to assure that calm voices always keep rebellion at bay so that progress can be seen. And most of all, we need to trust that what is expressed by what one person gives is as meaningful to them as what is expressed by another person, even if they are in total disagreement. Amen.
Y'all please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Indivisible. As we've taken time to have invocation as well as Pledge of Allegiance, we all understand a lot of mixed emotions that has gone across this nation as well as the city as a result of the Derek Chauvin trial. We respect and honor justice and accountability as elected officials and as leaders of the city of Little Rock. And we all ask for a time of moment of silence to invoke love and peace in the honor of justice and accountability. With that being said, Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the consent agenda.
The consent agenda number one, I'm sorry. A resolution has set May 4th, 2021 as the date of the public hearing regarding the sources and uses of funds provided in the 2021 CDBG Home and HOPWA funds from the United States government and for other purposes. A resolution to approve the implementation of the Land Bank property programs for the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences and Arkansas Children's Hospital employees, and to approve guidelines and policies for transfers under the program and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Burkhalter Technologies, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $1,598,769.60 for the Geyer Springs Reconstruction Project and for other purposes. Funding from the 3/8 capital improvement sales tax and the limited tax general obligation capital improvement bonds. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with RP Power in an amount not to exceed $214,620.43 for 3 Kohler emergency generators for various city departments and other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Motorola Solutions in an amount not to exceed $140,196.52 plus applicable taxes and fees for the purchase of 26 mobile radio systems for the Little Rock Police Department, utilizing the Arkansas State Contract Purchasing Agreement and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Motorola Solutions in an amount not to exceed $221,413 plus applicable taxes and fees for the purchase of 26 WatchGuard cameras and accessories for the Little Rock Police Department, utilizing the Arkansas State Contract Purchasing Agreement and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize a 5-year extension of the interlocal agreement for ambulance services between the city of Little Rock, Arkansas and the city of Sherwood, Arkansas, granting the Little Rock Ambulance Authority, DBA Metropolitan Emergency Medical Services, an exclusive franchise to continue to provide ambulance services to the city of Sherwood and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize a 5-year extension of the interlocal agreement for ambulance services between the city of Little Rock, Arkansas and the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas, granting the Little Rock Ambulance Authority, DBA Metropolitan Emergency Medical Services, and the exclusive franchise to continue to provide ambulance services to the city of North Little Rock and for other purposes. A resolution to provide funding for LED lighting fixtures at the River Market parking deck on behalf of the Little Rock Advertising and Promotion Commission to authorize the city to receive incentive funds from the project and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with the Peter Damon Group to provide federal government relations and consulting services and for other purposes. A resolution to amend Section 2 of the Little Rock, Arkansas Resolution Number 14,296, January 22nd, 2019, to note the closing costs equaled $64,532.47 and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with L&M Office Furniture, a state contract vendor, in the total amount of $569,305.88 for the purchase of office furniture for the new Little Rock Police Department headquarters located at 615 West Markham Street and for other purposes. That concludes the consent agenda.
Move for the adoption of the consent agenda.
Second.
Do apologize. Director Wyrick and I were wanting to make a brief notation. We do have a motion to second to adopt the consent agenda. Director Wyrick would like to make a statement on one of the items, just out of respect for one of the Little Rock residents. Director Wyrick.
Let me address here. Thank you, Mayor. We received a letter from Pam Bingham in Southwest Little Rock that said that she was in opposition to item number 18, 5804 and 5808 Baseline Road. And I just wanted that noted in the record. It is on our consent agenda. I don't know if the wishes of the board are to pull that out separate and hear something on that.
Well, that's on the group agenda next, and not on the consent.
Well, it's pretty much the same thing.
Well, before it comes up, Mayor, I'd move that we table that for 60 days.
Point of order, Mayor.
Hold on 1 second. 1 second. You want to finish your statement, Director Wyrick?
There wasn't any debate about it last week when we put it on the grouped items, as Bruce says. So typically, we just read these and move forward. So I'm just trying to make note that we do have a request from Southwest Little Rock residents, a group, it's not just one person, but a group that object to that zoning request.
So thank you so much, Director Wyrick. I do know you wanted to get out ahead of this because we generally kind of move on certain things. So thank you for that notation. Thank you to the Southwest Little Rock UPS president, one of the leaders of Southwest Little Rock UPS, not the Southwest Little Rock's president, and Pam Bingham. That has been notated for the record as we approach that item in planning, on item 18. There's been a motion and second for the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it.
Have a question, please.
Ayes have it, but we'll definitely move. We've already passed the consent agenda, but your question, Director Adcock?
Yes, my question was, did they appear before the planning commission and object?
They being who?
Ms. Bingham and the group that you and BJ said that they represented?
Point of order, Mayor. Point of.
Again, Vice Mayor Hines, Director Adcock has the floor. Vice Mayor Hines,
it's-
Vice Mayor Hines,
it's a point
you
of-
are out of order, Vice Mayor
No,
Hines.
I'm not. It's a
We are
point of order.
recognized right now with Director Adcock. Director Adcock, please proceed.
Mayor, the point of order is supposed to be recognized before anything else, if it is a legitimate point of order.
But we're in mid-sentence with Director Adcock.
Mayor, I made the point of order during Director Wyrick's. You failed to recognize it then. We are out of order on the agenda. We're on the consent agenda, a second in the motion.
We've already completed the consent agenda, Director.
Correct.
We
Correct.
already completed the consent agenda, so that point of order is not even in order. Thank you so much. Director Adcock, your question.
My question was, did this organization and these individuals appear before the planning commission and voice their objections to this?
I do not know that answer. We'll get that answer before we get to that particular item from Director Collins.
And Mayor, I made a motion to table that for 2 months, please.
We first have to get to that item first, Director. Madam Clerk, would you please proceed? And Mr. Collins, if you could give us that answer before we get to that item as quickly as possible.
An ordinance,
Mayor, they're grouped items, Mayor. So if the proper order would be to entertain Director Richardson's motion just before we read them.
Director Richardson.
I move that we table that item that BJ and Joan referenced for 2 months because a lot of the people in the Southwest neighborhood, Little Rock and neighborhood associations were not contacted, were not informed, and still to this day have no knowledge about what's going to be proposed should we change this zoning. So I think within 2 months, hopefully it'll give us enough time for all interested parties to sit down and talk and meet, and everybody could be fully informed before we make any decisions. So that's my motion, Mayor, to table it for 2 months.
There's a second from Vice Mayor Hines.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, would you please proceed?
an ordinance to amend the land use plan in the Interstate 430 Planning District west of Interstate 430 at the north terminus of Colonel Glenn Plaza Drive from mixed office commercial to commercial and for other purposes. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned residential district titled Ellis Duplex and Accessory Building, PRD, located at 900 West 15th Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned residential district titled Arium Development LLC PRD located at 2204 West 10th Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned commercial district titled Woodall Short-Term Rental PCD located at 1805 East 3rd Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned residential district titled Hat Properties LLC PRD located at 300 South Valentine Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 21,729, May 21st, 2019, to authorize an increase to the service agreement with Motorola Solutions to include fees for the upgrade of the extension of the maintenance agreement for the city's radios, infrastructure, equipment utilized by the Communications Division and for other purposes. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to dispense with the requirement of competitive bidding and to enter into a sole source contract with Socrata Inc. in an amount not to exceed $94,963 plus applicable taxes and fees for the annual software subscription and maintenance renewal and for other purposes. First reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Aye on everything except no on item 18.
Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to amend the land use plan in the Interstate 430 Planning District west of Interstate 430 at the north terminus of Colonel Glenn Plaza Drive from mixed office commercial to commercial. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to approve a plan and zoning development and establish a planned residential district titled Ellis Duplex and Accessory Building PRD located at 900 West 15th Street. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned residential district titled Arium Development LLC PRD located at 2204 West 10th Street. An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned commercial district titled Woodall Short Term Rental PCD located at 1805 East 3rd Street. An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned residential district titled Hat Properties LLC PRD located at 300 South Valentine Street. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 21,729, May 21st, 2019, to authorize an increase to the service agreement with Motorola Solutions, Inc. to include fees for the upgrades of the extension of the maintenance agreement for the city's radio infrastructure equipment utilized by the Communications Division. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to dispense with the requirement of competitive bidding and enter into a sole source contract with Socrata Inc. in an amount not to exceed $94,963 plus applicable taxes and fees for the annual software subscription and maintenance renewal. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third reading.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
No on 18, aye on the others.
Ayes have it. Third reading.
An ordinance to amend the land use plan in the Interstate 430 Planning District west of Interstate 430 at the north terminus of Colonel Glenn Plaza Drive from mixed office commercial to commercial. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development, establish a planned residential district titled Ellis Duplex and Accessory Building PRD located at 900 West 15th Street. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned residential district titled Arium Development LLC PRD located at 2204 West 10th Street. An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned commercial district titled Woodall Short Term Rental PCD located at 1805 East 3rd Street. An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development and establish a planned residential district titled Hat Properties LLC PRD located at 300 South Valentine Street. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 21,729, May 21st, 2019, to authorize an increase to the service agreement with Motorola Solutions, Inc. to include fees for the upgrade of the extension of the maintenance agreement for the city's radio infrastructure equipment utilized by the Communications Division. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to dispense with the requirement of competitive bidding and enter into a sole source contract with Socrata Inc. in an amount not to exceed $94,963 plus applicable taxes and fees for the annual software subscription and maintenance renewal. Third and final reading.
Now had three readings. Are there any questions from members of the board? Director Adcock?
I would like my question answered, please. I would like my question answered.
Director Collins?
Has it not been tabled, Mayor?
It was tabled.
It's been tabled, so that question will have it up for discussion.
Know the
Director
answer.
Wyrick?
I know the answer. There was no one that appeared in opposition at the Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you so much, Director Wyrick. Any more questions for members of the board? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it. Item 8, for members that are watching online and members that of the constituency that are here with us tonight, item 18 has been pulled from the agenda per the motion from Director Richardson and a second by Vice Mayor Hines. It's been pulled for 2 months, a tabled discussion. It'll come back before the board in 2 months. And so just so everyone's aware of what's gone on for item number 18.
Mayor.
Director Capures?
Mayor, there's a lot of interest, obviously, in some items here tonight, but if we're going to talk about Resolution 24, it's not in good keeping to have this many people in the room. And I think we have more than our capacity right now in the room, and I would suggest we move people out in the hallway if possible.
Members in the audience, out of caution, if we could, if you do not have a seat, if you could exit to the foyer and space out with your mask on, please do so, just out of caution.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Computers. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read item 23.
A resolution to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute any documents necessary to donate a City of Little Rock land bank property located at 3101 South Arch Street to the Village Place for use as a community garden and for other purposes.
We suspend the rules and put on second reading.
Second.
It's a resolution.
A resolution.
Before we have a few cards for item number 23 before we go to a vote. Ms. Billy Thomas. Or Mr. Billy Thomas. There's also a Billy Woods as well, but we're going to Mr. Billy Thomas first.
Well,
I
thank
apologize.
you all for,
And I apologize, Dr. Billy Thomas.
what'd you say?
I was just recognizing.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks. Well, thanks for putting the thing on the agenda. I think that you've got a handout, I think, that is an email, and you also got a letter from the advisory committee. And so I just kind of want to talk about that. I'm on the advisory board, and I think one of the questions was residency. And I'm a resident of Little Rock, and I think if you look at the letter, it will answer that question. I think the other thing I wanted to say is that besides thanking you for allowing us to be here, is that, I was thinking about, the overall intent of a garden. And I know it's to grow produce, but, I'm actually from the country. And, gardens do more than just grow produce. And for me, it was a place, that we all gathered and we all developed relationships. And so to me, it's beyond the fact of just growing vegetables. And I think that the community would benefit from that type of relationship within that neighborhood. And I think if you look at the email, there were some questions that were raised by some of the board members. And I think it's answered very clearly. I think if you go through it, all of the things that were brought up were addressed in the email. And I think it was the attempt to develop this garden was done based upon recommendations from people within that neighborhood, on that board in the neighborhood. And so I think it was done well, and the responses in the email are very clear. I think it was well thought out, and very respectful of the person that's over that neighborhood. So to me, you know, I think the idea of putting the garden in the neighborhood is good. I think if you look, there were videos that were made of people from the neighborhood that attest to the fact that they wanted the garden in the neighborhood. And there was a list of people that attested to wanting the garden in the neighborhood. So I think, you know, those are the things that I'd like to state. I think Ms. Woods, who is the director of the Village Place, might want to address some of the specifics of the questions that were raised at the last board meeting. Because I think she documents and clearly shows the progression of how we got to where we are. So that's kind of what I wanted to say about the Village Place. I do think I will be there. I'm by no means a master gardener, but I do think that I can lend myself to working in the garden and helping to build that neighborhood. So those are the things I kind of wanted to say about the Village Place.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Billy Woods.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I sent an email that sort of outlines all of the things I'm hoping that we can address today. I want to ask the board of directors, first, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the garden and to potentially get the garden approved. But I wanted to turn it back to you all for questions that some of you all may have about the garden.
Hold on 1 second. Director Wright.
My question is, how far is this from, this location from the existing garden?
This-
That's the Crump, is it Crump?
Crump Garden, yes, ma'am. This garden will be on 31st and Arch, and Crump Garden is on 33rd. So it's 2 streets up, and we really want it to be accessible for the kids and the families and communities that come to our facility, which is 2 blocks up from the garden. We want it to be in walking distance for elderly people and for the kids, so.
Okay, so it's 2 streets over from 33rd?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It won't work sometimes. You keep doing.
Director Richardson.
Thank you,
We-
Mayor.
Director Richardson, we do need you to use the
That
thing. We'll
mine
get,
is not working
we get-
sometimes. I don't have my original one tonight, so
okay, we got you.
mine is at home. I keep trying. Mayor, just one question, ma'am. Will the entry point be on Arch Street or 33rd Street?
The entry point will be on 31st.
31st?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry. Okay,
Yes, sir.
31st Street. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Thank you.
Director Hendricks.
Share some information with the board. It was not that I was opposed to the garden, but the way that this young lady has handled it as an out-of-city resident, it was as if there was no ward director for her to come to. I think she knew that she could have come to me, but what bothers me is her attitude. Petitions were circulated, and in checking these petitions of signatures of people, many of them that did not even live in Ward 1, nor did they vote for Director Hendricks. A lot of those people I've checked, they are not registered voters. That was offensive to me. I think most of you know that I will work with anybody, but it's the way that this was handled. And Arch Street is a highway. I checked, well, I knew it was a highway, but I wanted to be sure when I checked with the State Highway Department. It is 367 South. That is the route of the garbage trucks. and they come through, they're speeding. I'm thinking about safety for the children. And I heard the young lady say that the children would be working the garden. We have offered to relinquish part of the Crump's garden to this organization. And again, I don't think that any sitting board member has ever encountered what I have encountered. I've been on this board a number of years, but I never seen an individual. Well, of course, if she had been a resident, I don't think that she would have been disrespectful. And that is my problem. I'm wanting to pull this item from the agenda and to give her space at the Crumps Park. And why she can't accept it. This is a neighborhood resident. It is a highway. Do you think that I would have approved this if she had come to me? I would say to her kindly, we will give you space at the garden, Crumps Garden. So I'm hoping that the board will support me with this idea. It's not like she's losing something. And as far as the young people walking, they can go out 28th Street, turn down on Gaines, and walk 3 blocks, and they're at Crumps Park. So I'm soliciting the support of the board members to provide this young lady with space at Crumps Park. Thank you.
May I respond?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, first, I would like to say to you, Director Hendricks, that I thought we had a very good conversation on March 14th, I believe, when we talked on the phone for 20 minutes. And I apologize to you if you felt like my attitude was one of disrespect. I think my focus is on the work and on getting the garden done and making sure that everybody is involved and feels like they are included in all aspects of the project. So I want to say that first. I also want to say that, as you know, there are many systemic issues that prevent people from being able to vote. That does not mean that their voices don't count. So I hope that the fact that some of the people that are on the list aren't registered voters does not make a difference. And they're still included in terms of the decision-making process.
Mayor.
I also would like to say that,
Ms. Woods.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Woods, just because we do got to recognize the point of order, Director Hendricks.
I don't think that she should be allowed time to debate. I did not talk to her until 2 or 3 months after she had circulated the petitions. No, you didn't. You came to me because you had no other choice at that time but to speak with me. So tell the truth of what you're saying. And I think the discussion has gone long enough, and I would ask that.
May I please respond?
Ms. Woods, 1 second, Ms. Woods. We're not going to go back and forth.
Okay.
But we will, Director Hendricks, we do have, did you have another comment, Director Hendricks?
Well, I was asking that if we could take a vote on what's going on, because this could be, again, you've got black folks bitching with black folks. It's not necessary.
So Director
It's not
Hendricks,
necessary.
so Director Hendricks, we already have a motion and a second on the floor.
Call for the question. I call for the question.
There's a motion to call the question.
Second.
There's a second from Vice Mayor Hines. So for everyone, the members in the audience and online, what has happened is we are now looking at item number 23. We had a motion and second to start the process. We did get a motion and second to go for a vote. We did have some comment cards for this particular agenda item. We're going through that process as a result of parliamentary procedure. Director Hendricks has asked for a motion to call the question. Vice Mayor Hines has seconded that question. And so now this vote will vote to call the question. And so those in favor will pass the ordinance. Those against will, no, those in favor will allow for us to stop the debate. And then we'll go forward, go back to the other motion to vote. Everyone understand what's going on?
Repeat the question. Repeat the motion again.
You called the question and Vice Mayor Hines is second. So we're getting ready to vote on the called question.
Okay. And what's the call?
Well, the call to end debate, and we're about to end, we're about to get a vote to end debate. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it to end debate. And so now we've now ended the debate with the ayes having it. And so now what's up before us is a vote to either pass item number 23 or to fail item number 23. Does every member of the board understand what we're voting on? Every
Mayor.
member of the board understand what we're voting on? I'll
Mayor.
say it again. Director Hendricks, and then I'll respond to Director Wright.
The question that you're about to call, I was concerned about what that was going to be. I was asking and hoping that we would remove this item from the agenda. Was that the motion?
No, ma'am. When you called the question, that was to end the debate on,
Okay.
to allowing the other agenda item speakers to speak. So so now no one else can speak on the item anymore. And so now the vote is on whether to pass this community garden or not. And I believe you've asked board members not to, but it's up to the board to say yes or nay based on the collective vote. You had another question, Director Hendricks?
Well, what I was really asking is that this item be removed from the agenda, because my intent is to ask that the board would allow that this garden is placed at Crump's garden. I don't want it to end with a battle. I think that she will
Point
be
of order,
satisfied.
Mayor.
Okay. You don't have to worry. I'm through.
Director, Vice Mayor Hines, you have a point?
Point of order, question's been called, there's no further debate. It's been amended, and we should be proceeding to the vote, correct, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes.
And also, Mr.
Without
City.
further debate.
It hadn't,
It hadn't been
it
amended.
has not been amended.
Has not been amended. Director Hendricks is asking for an amendment.
No, she called the question on the vote. I seconded it, was passed. We should proceed to the vote on the resolution.
And
We
Vice
have
Mayor Hines,
proper motions.
we agree that she did call the question.
There can be no
And so
further
she
debate
is
after the
now-
question, Mr. Parliamentarian, please
Landscape, but
clarify.
one of you all talk at a time. Only one of you.
She is
can talk
now
at a time.
asking for an amendment. I'm asking now, City Attorney. Vice Mayor Hines, please allow the City Attorney to be the parliamentarian, not yourself, please.
Mayor, it's too late to bring in a motion to take it from the agenda. It's been on the agenda. It's been read on the agenda. And so now the question is the vote, and you're supposed to proceed to the vote immediately after the end of discussion.
So now would you please share that with Director Hendricks so she understands that her motion to amend is not able to, but give her the explanation. That's what a parliamentarian is supposed to do. So thank you so much.
Director Hendricks, the motion to remove it from the agenda is late and can't be recognized. The only thing that the board can do now is vote on the measure.
And what
Yeah,
is the
then-
measure? Read the measure.
The measure is the resolution to authorize the execution of documents to donate a land bank property at 3101 South Arch Street to the Village Place for use as a community garden.
Thank you.
All right. We now have a vote on the floor. There's been a motion and a second. Again, board members, a vote yes is to pass the community garden. A vote no is to not do it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay, nay.
Present.
Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, would you please read item number 24?
A resolution to declare the extension of a local disaster emergency as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and for other purposes.
We have no agenda items. Director Adcock, do you have your hand up for this item?
No, I had my hand up for the last item.
Well, I do apologize. I didn't see that.
Would you please announce, because I think we've got lots of people in the audience that does not understand that this passed.
For which passed?
23.
All right. Those in the audience, item number 23 has passed. Those in the audience, item number 23 has passed.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor,
Director Computers,
I did it.
I saw it, and we're happy that you got it done.
Raise your hand, but that's nice, Antoine.
I raised my hand twice on the machine and in person. Two things. I would strongly urge the board for us to continue our mask resolution for the city. This is a very perilous time for what was going on. The committee that the mayor appointed, seems like eons ago, but a little more than a year ago, met Monday, and every one of the group representing the 6 hospitals in town feels strongly that we need to maintain what we're doing until the CDC says it's not time to do it. Secondly, and this is not exactly pertaining to this, but we are entering into a very difficult time now because we have more vaccine than we have arms to put them in. And I want to commend Director Adcock and Stephanie. About 2 weeks ago, we were in our Monday meeting, we were talking about how to get people, especially people in underserved areas, to get the shot. Stephanie's done a great job at St. Mark's. Knowing that you can always volunteer Joan to do anything that helps this community, I did. She has pestered Mike Poor now. The man won't take her calls anymore. But this week, we're going to, at our community center, have a drive, especially for the Latino population. And at the new high school, we're going to have a drive where people 16, 17, or 18 will come and hopefully bring their parents to have a shot. And if we're going to maintain or achieve herd immunity, we're going to have to start thinking outside the box. So Joan just handed me the flyer that's got the City of Little Rock. The group that's doing it is CHI St. Vincent's. Jerry Jones that stepped up and has helped Joan get this thing done. The school district and the Mexlin Constant. And the Southwest Community Center is from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturday.
That's
For
Friday,
the first shot.
Friday,
What?
Friday.
No, this is for the high, and then the Friday is for the high school, excuse me. And the second shots will be 2 weeks later. But these are the sort of things that are going to make our community safer by thinking outside the box, finding groups that are underserved and doing it. And Joan has done a great job, and Stephanie's done a great job. CHI St. Vincent's and the Mexlin Consulate and the city have stepped up. So everybody gets a lot of kudos on this. But as far as this resolution is concerned, I would urge everybody to support it, and it's important.
Thank you, Director Wright.
I got my question answered in his comments.
All right, is there a motion and second?
So move.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, would you please read item number 25 for the first time?
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes, first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it, second reading.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it, third reading.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, third and final reading.
Any questions on item number 25? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read item number 26 for the first time.
An ordinance to prohibit vehicular trespass, the caravanning of vehicles, and drag racing within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes, first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it, second reading.
An ordinance to prohibit vehicular trespass, the caravanning of vehicles, and drag racing within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes, second reading.
We suspend the rules
Well,
and place on
well,
third and
well,
final.
In front of all of you tonight, there was a version of this. There were a couple of minor things in there, like a statute was not quoted. The wrong number was given in one of the recitals. And in light of the concerns raised by the police chief and others, we clarified what a penalty would be for the various things instead of just leaving it in section 5. So on this one, if you would accept these amendments and then go to your third reading, that would help.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it. We're now going to, before we go to the third reading, Director Phillips.
And just for clarity, Mayor, that recent vote was the vote to accept the amendments to the ordinance, correct?
Correct.
All right. Mr. Carpenter, I just want to clarify some things in the ordinance for people who ask me about it, and if you can give us some context about enforcement. Because when I read section 5, it says 2 or more vehicles. A person commits the act of illegal caravan if he or she knowingly travels with any group of vehicles within the corporate limits of the city of Little Rock in close proximity to one another. Any vehicle, I want to emphasize, any vehicle within the group commits 2 or more traffic violations such as, but not limited to, careless or prohibited driving, improper lane usage, racing, or reckless driving. When I read that, I understood that if you're in a funeral procession and 2 people don't signal to switch lanes, then in theory, they could be cited for violating this, correct?
I suppose so. I don't think that would be a reasonable reading of it in light of the fact that the entire ordinance, and that's where you go back to the recitals to get some of the board's legislative intent, and also to the emergency clause to get the board's legislative intent. This is about illegal actions that are a threat to public safety, health, or welfare. One person in a funeral procession that doesn't signal a left turn while everybody's turning left is not a public health hazard or public safety hazard.
Okay, I just want that to be clear for people who are watching. And then I also reviewed section 1.9 of the code that relates to the penalties. And if you could just, I reviewed it, I'm not sure everyone else did. If you can just share with us what the penalties are that will be enforced if someone violates this ordinance.
It's a fine up to $1,000.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Hines.
Tom, so everyone's in concurrence with this between our police chief, the prosecuting attorney. Where would these cases, will they go to our city court or will they go to the prosecuting attorney's office?
This is an ordinance violation, so it would go to one of the Little Rock State District Courts, assuming there is no conflict.
Okay, so your office would be prosecutors. Okay, thank you.
Director Wyrick.
Thank you, Mayor. I was interested in the penalties as Director Phillips requested information. And our city attorney set up to $1,000. Is there like a gradual point to get there? Is it like if you get 1 violation, you get $50, and if you get 2 violations, you get $100? How do you get up to $1,000? Does the police officer say?
The judge makes that determination.
Okay. But we're going to be writing tickets, the same kind of ticket each time, and then it'll go to the judge, and the judge will make the determination as to what the penalty is.
Right.
Is there any additional penalties if people are cited more than once or twice? Is that up to the district judge as well?
The way the 1.9 works under the statute is that if it was a continuing violation, then the second one could be $500 a day. But the practical matter is that if a caravan is stopped and then they start another caravan, that's 2 different caravans. That's not a continuation. So they would be facing the maximum fine both times. The maximum fine is set by the General Assembly.
Okay. All right. And so it says in here that if it's 2 or more vehicles
Yes, ma'am.
that are caravanning, and doing the spinning or whatever they do, what if it's one person that's out doing circles in parking lots?
Then they'll be charged with reckless driving or the other appropriate offense, but they will not be charged with caravanning. The problem that we had, and that's a very good question, is that we were looking at a number. At one point, we had 5. There was some suggestion about 3. And then we started hearing stories about people going, as my mother said, like bats out of hell on 630 on both sides of a person. And if there's only 2 of them, then this additional penalty should affect them. On the other hand, that keeps us from having to hope that the Girl Scouts or the Boy Scouts or a church group or a funeral procession isn't caught up because of the number of cars. The focus is going to be on the conduct and not upon the number. It has to be 2 or more.
Okay, and I watched a video, I think I mentioned it a couple of board meetings ago, on YouTube in regards to doing this caravanning and drag racing. And in one of the videos, people were actually shooting. And I think one of our business owners wound up with some damage to his property. Are there any special penalties for the guns? Or does that fall under the ability to carry a gun? How does the gun enter into that?
The ability to carry a gun in Arkansas as an open carry state is
Right.
kind of strange, but the answer to your question is that if they're shooting at someone, that becomes an assault, a felony assault, which would be handled by the prosecutor. If they just fire a gun off, it would depend upon the circumstances, but we have an ordinance that prohibits the discharge of weapons within the city, and we could charge that as an additional offense.
So
But I
possibly
think
they,
I'd rather, I'm sorry, I think that if, like, they're driving down the interstate and shooting at each other, even if they're just kidding and shooting across the bow, I think that really is a felony and the prosecutor should handle it.
what I saw was doing circles and actually leaving the side of where they were doing circles and firing rounds as they left. I don't know, I mean, I couldn't tell if they were shooting at each other or not, but it's my understanding that there were buildings damaged in this one particular incident. So that was a concern for me, and I wanted to understand how that would be addressed. So,
In terms of the criminal law, if it's the misdemeanor still and in a district court, a property owner can claim the damage and a judge can make payment for the damage as a condition of the finding of guilty.
but I'm guessing the police officer would have to see,
You'd have to see who
he'd
fired.
have to see it being fired. He couldn't have someone say, well, they're shooting guns and they're doing donuts, and he'd have to see the actions and all these, even in the caravanning and in the skidding of tires and doing donuts and stuff like that. A police officer would have to see that in order to issue tickets.
In terms of the sliding, the donuts, the stopping and starting, all that, yeah, he's going to have, an officer will have to witness that. In terms of the firing a firearm, that's going to be a fact-intensive situation, and it's going to be the officer's judgment if it was being done at somebody or in a dangerous manner that could have assaulted somebody.
So, okay, so he couldn't observe the tire marks in a parking lot and say, you know, you were doing donuts or you were dragging or anything. He'd have to actually see the things in action in order to issue the tickets. Or
You'd have to see those particular items happening, but with the caravanning, if it's a group that's staying together, all the members of the group are going to be subject to a ticket.
okay. Okay, thank you.
We have now Director Richardson.
Thank you, Mayor. Tom, BJ's questions about the penalty is a perfect segue. I had a question about, now, what for enforcement authority do we have for property owners who don't put that signage up that says that this is not allowed? And people, do we have any authority, enforcement authority?
There's two
for those
statutes,
businesses?
there's two statutes on the book that say that if the actions of an individual are subject to a traffic citation on public roads, then it can be applied to private roads. There is one case that we found that interpreted it, and it essentially said that if you're backing out and hit somebody, they're not going to allow that to be deemed a criminal offense at that point. But if you're on a particularly closed parking lot and doing the speed racing and all the other stuff, then you can get the other ticket.
So what is the purpose for us having them have signage, if that's the case?
Well, because trespassing means that you have entered or remained unlawfully on the property of another. If the signage is in place, there's not going to be any question that they've entered or remained unlawfully.
When the business is closed?
Right.
Okay, well, Mayor, with these latest additions, I know Tom and the chief have been working tirelessly to dot the i's and cross the t's. I don't feel comfortable voting for this with this latest additions or correction that you made, Tom. I haven't had a chance to look at it and digest it enough, so Mayor, I'll be voting against this.
Thank you for sharing your intentions to vote against. Director Phillips?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I had another question for the city attorney I forgot to ask. As it relates to the signage, I know in the planning department, whenever there's a zoning change or conditional use permit, the signs are neon colored, green, so you can see them as you're driving by that, hey, this property has applied for a permit. Was there any discussion about these signs being a different color, and can you update on why that's not included?
The size that's in there is the 18 by 12. The language is in there to show what the individual is. In terms of the color, we really didn't talk about that. And you're the first person to bring that up.
I don't know, you throwing shade at me or not, but
No, in all honesty, I know what you're talking about. I mean, we have colors for, changing in zoning. We have colors for condemned houses. I don't think that the booting ordinance specifies the color, but it does specify what's on the item that's put on the car.
in your opinion, would that help here if it was required to have a certain color of the sign?
Yeah, I don't know how, I'm more worried that people are told no trespassing, once no access after the lots are closed. That I'm worried about. And I want it to be in a certain size, and it's going to have a certain size letter, and it's going to be at the entrance and the exit, and it's going to be clearly visible. I don't want anybody able to say, well, gee, I didn't know we couldn't do this, because they won't be able to say that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Director Wyrick? You didn't show your hands now. Director Wright?
Yes, Mr. Carpenter, does this apply to city-owned facilities? As you know, we have a huge parking lot, and we've been hit several times. So
The general answer is it can be, but I don't want to say it's applicable to all of them, because if you're in one of the parking lot areas around MacArthur Park that we encourage people to walk around, I don't know that we're going to have that, but we do have an ordinance already in place that you're not supposed to be on any park property after a certain hour, and it varies with the summer hours, and so that would still apply, and that's on the books.
does the signage have to be there? Is what I guess, because
And what I'm saying is that there are probably some places, there's a couple of police parking lots I know of that I would say to the manager, it'd be good to put this language up. But there are going to be some other park type places where I don't think we have to put anything else up, because we already have signs up that say you're not allowed in the park after these hours.
but I've seen people, I've been inside of the building and you see a car show up driving real fast, go out to the middle of the parking lot and just start spinning and then speed off, and then you try to get a license plate and there's no license plate. So,
I think we tried to solve as many problems as we could.
so we don't have to, it doesn't apply to city.
It can apply to city property and in May, but to say it's going to apply here and not there, it's what I can't do.
Okay, I understand.
Seeing no other questions from members of the board. School President Vicky Hatter.
Still at the Capitol right now, so she's not able to speak.
Thank you. We'll now move to Ms. Natalie James.
Hello, hello, hello. Hope everybody's having a great evening. It's very interesting to watch, very interesting to learn and be part of a lot of this groundbreaking stuff that's going on here in Little Rock. We are very blessed to have some very influential and amazing leadership that is taking us on a whole new path and trajectory with our children, with our economics during a pandemic when other cities aren't seeing the growth and the lower rate in crime that we are seeing. So I want to commend our directors, our chief of police, and everybody else involved with those decisions. We're speaking about this number 26, about this caravan, and it's so much that plays into that. Right now, Jim Daly was the mayor for 25 years. During his reign, we had gang banging in Little Rock. That's what we were known for. When I go travel, that's what people associate us with. We had some of the bloodiest cities during that time. Mark Stodola, that was the mayor before us. He called off Amazon. We lost jobs, and we saw an increase in crime because we had people unemployed, children without food. We saw so much strife and division in our police station, in our police department because of that inadequate leadership. Now the people are healing and the people are growing. Then we hear that somebody is allocating and putting together 15 million, up to allegedly $15 million to be raised to buy votes in marginalized communities in a pandemic to stifle the growth that we have against our current mayor and our current directors. This whole move is to sit here and upseat the chief of police and to try and upseat our current mayor. That I can't allow it to happen, and I can't allow it to go unspoken. We're gonna know who it is when they announce when they run for mayor. We're just letting you know that we know. And if you do try to buy votes in our community, we're going to circumvent it also. It's very illegal for you to do that. So we are here to back what growth we do have. And how do we do that and keep this caravan from affecting everybody and everybody in the way that it has been? We need to keep on that trajectory that we have with our current mayor, our current chief of police. The crime is declining. Unemployment is going down. Jobs are coming in. The only way to circumvent crime is to create opportunity. Our mayor and our directors, they're creating that opportunity. And we need to make sure we stay on that right trajectory and not circumvent and dissolute and create disease in the head. Because if the head is sick, the body soon follows. And that body is carrying all of us and our children. It's creating so much issue and strife. Our streets, I have not seen them like this since I grew up. And to say that what we have right now isn't good enough and that somebody else can do better, we haven't seen it. We have had 25 years, again, with Jim Daly, and Mark Stodola. This amount of growth we did not see in 30 years that we are seeing in 18 months. 18 months, we are seeing this amount of unheard of growth. I want to commend and I want to help. And I want us to do preventative action for our youth. That's also working with other organizations and funding those organizations. You have Derek Olivier, you have so many youth programs that need to be brought back. But we can't focus on that because we're focused about the mayor and the chief of police when we're not focused on our children. And when you don't focus on the little mice and the cat's away, guess what? They're gonna play. And this is what's happening. And this is what we're having to deal with the caravanning, the guns, the gunshots, and people thinking they're too fast, too furious. They have nothing else to do. Give them something else to do. Be that change. That was the reason for this garden. And we appreciate you for voting for it. Because guess what? Arkansas is #1 in agriculture. But most of the inner city children, the urban children, can't tell you how to grow anything. They can't even grow a lima bean. Something's wrong with that. This garden is giving them the opportunity to do that. To have it, we need to have a garden every 4 blocks because especially in Ward 1, it's a food desert. Edwards Food Giant does not have fresh produce. I've been in there numerous times. These children need to see how to fish. We don't need to keep giving them fish because, I mean, we can all agree, we don't want to give handouts. We want to teach people how to be better. And how do you do that? You teach them how to take care of themselves and grow for themselves and how to provide for their children. And so that those parents can make better decisions and those children and not be in a stressed environment. We have to fix ourselves. And we have to realize that our decisions, what we focus on and who it affects, because now we're all living in it. Nobody likes those gunshots. Nobody likes the children being murdered. Nobody likes to have to sit here and talk about caravanning. As minute as it is, it's a bigger issue. It's just a symptom of the disease. So we need to fix the disease and get it out of the body and not focus on the symptoms of the illness, but focus on wellness and wholeness together as humans, because we are humans and we're in this together, and be the blueprint for the nation. We are the diamond state. And right now the pressure is on. Guess what happens? We're going to turn into a diamond. Can we do that together, not argue amongst each other and be disrespectful in cameras in front of other people, in front of our children, because they do watch this and they see that. And they're like, oh, well, it's okay for you to act that way. I can act that way too at home. You have to lead with example. You cannot be disrespectful to the head. It's the same thing in the house. You have to be a united front. And we got to come together to be a united front to fix our issues, fix our children, fix our street. All this infighting, all this politicking, it is getting us nowhere. It's turning us back into a circle, back to the same issues, and it's uncalled for. We are better than that. We can be better than that. We will be better than that, because I'm gonna be up here to remind you. I'm a mother, I'm a teacher, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, as well as you guys are. And we're gonna do this together like any family, because unfortunately, whether you like me or not, we are family. We're in this together, and we need to act as such. All the disrespect, let it go. Move forward, and let's grow forward. Let's plant a new seed like we're doing in these gardens, and let's grow something beautiful, magnificent, and let's grow our children. Let's invest in our children so we can stop all this caravanning, crime, robbing, breaking into somebody's house for $40 to buy food. Because these children, you guys are focused on the action and not the cause of the action. We have to focus on, why are they behaving like this? Because we behave like this. Because we are sitting here focused on the wrong thing. Because we're not focused on, maybe they were hungry. We had a great meeting with the chief yesterday. Getting our police out there in the community to recognize those problems with our children is the first step to prevention. They can see, I think he's angry because he's hungry. I know I get that way. These children break in your homes, they go caravanning and act up because they don't have the guidance. They're scared of the police because the police are policing them because they're not used to it, because we're sitting here, we're gonna penalize you and add $1,000 fine for you having fun because you have nothing else to do. That's ridiculous. We have to come up with better solutions. Caravanning is not the issue. We have to focus on the real issue at hand, taking care of our children. We have stopped all programs. they are suffering PTSD, and they are not allowed to interact with each other and have the counseling that they need. And they need grief counseling because they see all this stuff we see and have to go online and do school, or go to McDonald's and do school, or go to Starbucks and go do school, or go find some internet to do school, if they even have a Chromebook. We have to focus on those issues first, and then we can trickle up. Just like policy, everything trickles up. So let's make sure we focus on what is starting, what is the original stone pebble in the lake to fix this issue. So I hope we can do this together. Thank you again for the garden. I am against this caravan and bill, but the only reason I'm against it is because of the language. If I have a baby shower, I have a wedding, and I have a drive-by, guess what happens? If I have an angry neighbor and they call, it's now illegal, and I'm gonna get fined $1,000. And you know what else is gonna happen? If I was a hot-tempered youth like I was, I might pop that neighbor in the mouth. Now we have a whole nother issue adding to it to already marginalized, heavily stressed communities. Let's not add more issues to what we already have. Let's fix what we have going on now. Let's fix it today. Let's fix it together, and stop getting up here embarrassing us because we elected you and voted for you guys, arguing and being disrespectful. Stop it. We are all adults, and I shouldn't have to tell you that your behavior is not correct. Please act like that so the children can see it and they might act correct. You can't tell a child how to act and you're not acting the same way. We are the parents. We're the head. Act like that. Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you so much, Ms. James. Seeing no other questions from members of the board, and no other comments from residents. To get back in order, the most recent vote was to allow for the new changes to the ordinance. So we were getting ready to, prior to that, we had a previous motion and a second for a second reading. All those, Mr. Parliamentarian, is that correct? Do you want us? It's been a while since then, so.
I believe you got the third reading, didn't you?
Were we on third? We were only on,
Okay, only twice. You're on third reading.
but now we have a motion and a second to suspend the rules to go to the second reading or the third reading?
Third.
Third reading. Okay, thank you, Mr. Parliamentarian. So we do have a motion and a second to suspend the rules to go to a third reading. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Third reading.
An ordinance to prohibit vehicular trespass, the caravaning of vehicles, and drag racing within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes, third and final reading.
Vice Mayor Hines.
Move to call the vote.
There's a motion to call a vote, even though we are on third reading. There's a second from Director Webb to call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it.
What are we voting for?
We're voting to call the vote.
Third reading.
Mayor, we've already had
Motion.
third reading.
Now another motion. I really don't know why you did it, but that's motion.
Director Hendricks has been trying to get your attention.
Director Hendricks.
What?
I really,
You
Mr.
got a
Parliamentarian,
motion?
because you called for a vote, we already had third reading, so it was already time for a vote. So I'm trying to figure out why there was a call for a vote.
He was essentially making a motion to call the question and cut off debate.
Yeah, but he didn't say call the question. He called for a vote.
Well,
It's fine. Is there, Director Hendricks?
Well, I've been
No,
waving,
it's not.
you're waving my hand for the longest. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I apologize.
Yeah, because I really wanted to say something after the young lady spoke. I was trying to find out how, was that on the agenda?
Yes,
Where,
ma'am.
Billy Wood spoke, that was on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. It was, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, what, it was on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, that's what I wanted to comment on. I wanted to let the board know that I am not finished with that issue, because I have never, ever, in the years that I've been on this board, see what actually happened with this deal. Nobody has been to this board before with what we just witnessed, okay? So I think all you all know that I'm persistent in things that I want to do, okay? And for the betterment. Nobody said anything about the young lady not being a resident and not even respect. And I know it started at the land bank is where it started. I even got emails from some young man that lives in Lance Hines district. But I think that just keep your eyes open. That's all I say. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Director Phillips.
I just want, point of clarity, Mayor. My understanding is we voted to end the debate. That passed. So now what's in front of us is to actually vote on whether to pass the caravan ordinance. Is that correct?
That's essentially what happened, just for clarification to everyone who's watching. There was a motion to call the vote. Generally, when you have a third reading, there's already a motion and second to have a vote. It's my understanding that Vice Mayor Hines, his intention was to call a question to call the vote. At the end of the day, we got to where we are, and so now we'll move towards a motion.
Mayor, I thought we already had third reading. Was I incorrect? I thought we already had third reading. That's why I called for the.
Yes.
It's fine. Let's just vote.
Yeah. We're not going to explain this. We'll move through it, everyone. We already had a third reading. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it.
Nay.
And there's an emergency clause.
The ayes have it. All those in favor for emergency calls, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
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 Ayes have it. Mr. Moore, do you have a comment? Mr. Moore? Mr. Parliamentarian, is there something we need to be aware of? Make sure it gets
Emergency clause
done
is the
here.
ordinance, but we need to add that phrase and to declare an emergency to the title.
So for everyone in the room, there was no emergency clause, but there was intention to have, are you?
There was an emergency clause. The language to declare an emergency was not in the title. It needs to be added.
Can you explain that again for everyone?
Generally, in a title, you're supposed to say what the body of the ordinance is about. If you want the ordinance to immediately go into effect, you have an emergency clause, and the title says to declare an emergency. The ordinance has emergency clauses passed, but the phrase to declare an emergency for one reason or another was not in the title, and so it will be added.
Thank you so much. Director Hines, you have a question?
So that would be a Scrivener's error.
Yes. Or a misprison, one of the two.
All right. Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read item number 27.
An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid for the selection of an entity to develop a pilot project to address youth violence, a crisis in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to declare an emergency and for other purposes, first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
There's a motion. Is there a second? There are motions. Is there a second? There are motions. Is there a second? Is there a motion? Is there a second?
You read it 3 times. It failed.
Before we take up a vote, Mr. Parliamentarian, we do have residents that are here to read for agenda item number 27. We'll read the agenda cards out of respect to the residents. Mr. Edmund Davis.
Thank you, Mayor Scott, Honorable Board of Directors, City Manager Moore, and Councilor Carpenter. My name is Ed Davis, and I'm the Director of DORI, the Derrick Olivier Research Institute, located at Arkansas Baptist College. Our mission is to collect, analyze, and track data trends on violence to recommend 21st century best practices used to mitigate violence detrimental to community safety. I stand before you not only representing DORI, but also the grieving mothers and fathers and families that have lost children to violence, in particular, homicide. Those folks right back there in the hallway. Little Rock is at 20 homicides, I believe, right now, and it's not the summertime yet. That's a 43% increase from last year at this time. As a part of Dory's first strategic goals, working with neighborhood organizations, law enforcement agencies, community stakeholders, and government officials is paramount to reducing violence in our city. It takes collaboration. Dory is currently working with the FBI, CityServe, the LRPD and its leadership here, of course, Pulaski County Sheriff's Office, Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, Pine Bluff PD, the University of Toronto in Canada, and also ODU right down the street. Arkansas Baptist College has a grand opportunity to work with Youth Violence Prevention Center pilot programs at West Central Community Service. Of course, this is where Dory is indicated and is taking its data, and it says that Ward 6 has the most homicides, currently speaking. Arkansas Baptist College is uniquely positioned to pioneer a national research model that reduces homicides, not just because it's a HBCU, but because over 60% of the students there are African-American males at a co-ed school. I've done the research on it already. There's not another school in the country like that. Having said that, the age 1 through 44 of African-American males, homicide is the #1 killer for African-American males ages 1 through 44. Of course, this evidence-based, community-based initiative is helping to prevent models, and moving forward, we can help reduce those rates beginning here in the capital city. Dory's framework for pilots include, but not limited to, an administrative infrastructure to support implementation, evaluation, and dissemination for this pilot program, to select communities of high rates of violence as the focus is on this pilot and its activities, a youth advisory council for each selected community to provide input on the selection, the implementation, and evaluation of youth violence prevention strategies. Also, and I'll say this real slow, we're going to integrate a youth violence screening tool. That's right, 21st century, a youth violence screening tool to track data. And we have intelligent software with embedded analytics used to recommend youth we hold sustainability. In closing, Dory is excited to project and to partner with you and to help mitigate homicides and violence with the Little Rock. We believe that you care about Black and brown communities and bodies, and that you would take pleasure in using this decision to invest in the most essential fabric of our country's well-being, and that's our youth. I want to say thank you right now to the Honorable Chamber here at the Little Rock Board of Directors meeting. But before I yield, I want to go ahead and show you this map that I have just right here in front of me. I'm going to step away and grab it real quick. But before I grab it, this map it is embedded with smart software where it tells you about the 20 homicides, the wards where these homicides have partaken in, and what happened to the people leading up to these homicides. We've got about 4 directives that we call risk factors, and it tells you with the colors that are associated with these colors, it kind of tells you what happened leading up to those crimes. Now, it just looks like some pins on here, but again, what we're saying here is this red indicates the social morality or bad choices. Now, there's a number that goes under that bad choices. We have about 11 factors that indicate those numbers. Of course, the second one here is economics, getting back to unemployment. The third one, of course, is education. 75% of high school dropouts have a criminal track record. So, of course, we have to go back to education and mend that rift there. Also, the final one is environment. We've got about 13% of the persons who were killed, and of course, the ones who pulled triggers, of course, the ones that we know about. We look at that data there. We're talking about the environmental factor. Many people don't realize that what you eat has a lot to do with how you do it in your actions. Of course, there's a lot of research out there that tells you about sugar factors, and of course, stores that have degrees of pretty much no resources when it comes to nutrition. And of course, there's a factor there that makes it applicable to the high crime rate. So we're talking about healthy food deserts, whether it's along John Barrow or, of course, Baseline Avenue. Those are essential in finding out what's going on here, not just in our city. This is not a Little Rock problem. This is a national problem. So, of course, we've got this tracked down, and this is for anybody. This is public data. And, of course, we do have 2 homicides that were here that we didn't have enough information to talk about it, so we have it as a clear dot when you see here in Ward 7, also here in Ward number 3. So again, this is just a part of Dory and what we're doing at Arkansas Baptist College. And again, I want to thank you all, and I yield.
Thank you so much, Mr. Davis. Pastor Ronald Rickelson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to the Board of Directors and all of you who play an important role in our city. I stand to oppose this program simply because I have been a part of PIT funding in Little Rock for approximately 10 years. I have worked with violent youth. As a matter of fact, one of my staff members was stabbed because we worked with violent youth. Now, the problem that we had with our youth subsided up until the pandemic. And when the pandemic happened, all of our city-funded PIT programs were closed. And so we had no real way of reaching our youth, even though some of us, like my facility, continued to work in the community because we knew how essential it was to stay in contact with our youth. We know the kids that we work with, and we have been involved with the juvenile system and with the correctional system, working with youth so that we can make a change in our community. I'm located in Southwest Little Rock at 3409 Baseline Road. In that area right now, there is no funding for youth in Little Rock. We applied for funding for youth, but were denied. I don't know why, because we have a proven track record of being successful in working with our young people. I had a meeting with Chief Humphrey, myself, wanting to know what could we do to make changes in this pandemic environment. And I must say that we had a great meeting, and we're putting some things into place to help curb the violence in our city. We have proven PIT programs. We have proven PIT programs. These programs have been working with the youth in our city and have changed the dynamics of youth in our city. We can't stop violence in its entirety, but we can and have made an indelible change in our city. Now, it's unfortunate that we've had youth to lose their lives during this pandemic period. But I don't think that one organization should be in control of the funds that all of us can work together and do a much better job. It takes a village. It takes a village. And if we narrow the village where we can't reach everybody, then we are asking for things to be even worse. Now, at our facility, we feed approximately 280 children a day throughout the city of Little Rock. We're in the community. We know what's going on. And all we need is a collaborative group to work together and bring about change. So again, I disapprove of this one organization controlling everything and not providing more opportunities for youth community programs who are actually the grassroots of our city, who actually walk down the streets, who engage with young people on the corner, engage with young people who are delving into drugs and other items that's harmful and alter their thinking. So I'm willing to work with Mr. Davis and whoever else, but I don't think that it's to our advantage. His data, we could use that. We can use that. in the community. But I don't think it would help our community to just give all the resources to one organization alone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Theodore Huffman. Mr. Theodore Huffman.
Hello, how y'all doing? Theodore Huffman. The topic that I brought up was engaging in the Black community and building a real Black community. We have a system that's in place that's been here since the start of time. It hasn't worked. It's not working. So what can we do to prevent youth from doing the things that they're doing? Not just giving them something to do, but we got to go to the root of the issue. So one of the things that I'm working on and trying to implement in the Black community is for us to have banks, grocery stores, our own police, our own fire department, anything, the necessities that we need in order to get where we came from. Because you know where we started? We've never been given a foundation. So if you haven't given a foundation, how can we expect these young brothers to see? Think about school. What are the two things that you know about Black people in school? The topics that we talk about: civil rights, slavery. And some of these young brothers think that that's all the history that we have. And it's not. Our history supersedes anybody's history. We were here first. So why don't they know about who they are? And the money that we get for the city, the money that we get from taxes, it's not going into the education, the real education of what these young brothers are going through. I was incarcerated for 7 years. You know, I made a bad decision. I got out. I'm a business owner now. I'm doing a lot of things for my community, for myself. I'm raising my kids and doing the necessary things. Nobody taught me that. I didn't have a man in my household to teach me that. I didn't have a mentor. I'm a mentor now, and we need money for that, to rebuild a Black community. We had Black Wall Street. Look what happened to that. How come we don't have efforts going towards that for us to become who we need to be? Just like I said, we never had a foundation. So just think about it. If you build a house, how are you going to build a house without a foundation? What is it going to do? When the wind blows, it's going to crumble. When it rains, it's going to rain inside your house. Same thing is happening with these young Black brothers out here. And we have programs set up where y'all are putting people in place with PhDs and all this education. Think about where the educational system started, 1902, the Rockefellers. If you look on the page, and you see where it was implemented from. Okay, so why aren't we putting people in place like myself? People who've gotten out of prison, did 7 years in prison, went from 18 to 26, 27, and got out, and I got my own business. I'm trying to build a lot of things in my community. I'm working with a lot of different programs, and I'm doing a lot of great things. Nobody taught me that. But thank God I was able to get around some people who was able to lead me down that direction. Everybody didn't get that, wasn't that lucky. There's a lot of people out here that are struggling right now. We just had a conversation with a guy who just got out. They gave him the money that they gave him when he got out of prison. He got his ID. That was all the money he had. Now what are you going to do? Who's going to give him a job? Especially during the pandemic. Small businesses are suffering. 80% of the employment come from small businesses. We're talking about financial literacy. They have none. We have none. Most Black people don't know about starting a business. And it's 2021. You can go on my iPhone right now, how to start a business. They break it down for you. But the fear of being rejected has been there from day one. So what are we putting money behind people with programs like the Youth Violence Prevention Center, like the cookbook publication? This is stuff that people don't know about, but to understand, and this is where we step in and say, understand us, because you cannot understand good if you don't understand bad first. You have to understand and spend some time with brothers like myself who've been in the trenches. I served in the military as well. It was easier transition for me because I went from the military to prison. And the military and prison resemble each other a whole lot. So it was easier for me. I had more peace in prison than I had anywhere, So, my point and what I want y'all to understand is we have to build our Black communities. And I know a lot of people on this podium, y'all probably don't care, because you think about it like this. When you get money, what are you told to do? Get out the hood. And most of the people who get money, where do they live at? Chenal Valley, Pleasant Forward, Pleasant Valley, and Maumelle, the districts in Sherwood. But if I become a millionaire with where I'm going, I'm building my house in the hood so that these young brothers can see, look at me. I can do it too. I did 7 years in prison, bro. I was raised by a single mom. You can do it. And they don't have that. They don't know who they are. They think slavery, civil rights. It's bigger than that. It's a spiritual warfare that's going on right now. And you can put in a million laws all you want to. You can put in ordinance, all that stuff. What's going to happen? What has been happening since the system has been in place? Nothing. So instead of trying to do the same thing, what is the definition of insanity? Y'all know what that is. We're doing the same thing. So instead of doing the same thing, how about doing something new? You know, think about the law where we got the right to work law. You got young brothers that's getting out here, and you can fire them for having a red hat on. And okay, you fire this brother, he get out and he's trying to do something with his life, and then what happens? He gets fired for whatever, and then he goes to the next job, then the next job, and it's just a cycle. The cycle has to be broken somewhere. And like I said, like I tell my people, it's not going to be y'all that do this. I was invited here, and I want to just say my piece. It's not going to be y'all that's going to do it, because if it was up to y'all, we would have been done. We'd have been done it. It's up to us to do it. It's up to us, each and every one of us, to open our eyes and see, hey, we got to take care of ourselves. It's just us. It's been us. And until we open our eyes and see that we have to build, I think about the gentrification that's going on in Granite Mountain over here on Cumberland Street. I drove down there. I hadn't been out there in a while. And I'm just like, where's this pretty house come from? They got strollers and walk around there, which is cool. But at the same time, what was this in the 90s? What was this in the early 2000s? My young brothers aren't seeing what's going on. They don't know. So can we put some money or get behind some brothers that are actually doing footwork on the streets and helping and talking to this? Can we do something like that instead of just continuing trying to put in policies that nobody even following? Who's following the policy? Who cares about the policies? When you see my black face and you walk past me, you don't even smile. Who cares about the policies? Work with brothers like myself and brothers who are really doing something to better this, because when it starts to trickle, just like you think about the pills, when that started going into the beyond middle class and upper class, then we started doing something. But during the crack epidemic, yeah, we were just stupid, we were dumb, they're just blah, 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 but now it's mental health. You see, it's a pattern there, and we have to pay attention to that, and we haven't been. So let's start doing something for us for real, the real us. Not the faces that we're putting into place and hoping that it change. No, change don't happen off hope. Change happen off actions. And we need action. We need action. We need money. Y'all got the money. Put it behind brothers who want to do something. That's all I got to say.
Thank you so much, Mr. Huffman. Mr. John Webb.
Kind of hard to come behind. I would like to say thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is John Webb. I represent Confidant
Can
Connections.
you pull that microphone up a little bit?
I represent Confidant Connections. It's an organization designed to help incarcerated people and assist them in their struggles. I would like to commend Ms. Doris Wright for her efforts to assist the Black community and the issues that are prevailing as far as violence and the deaths of our youth every day. I personally experienced, from a victim standpoint, being shot down in these Little Rock streets, also living in a life of poverty and participating in various gang activities coming up. So I commend you, Ms. Wright, on all your efforts to help us. If there's going to be any funds allocated, I would just like to say if you're going to donate any money to assist or stop or prevent violence in this city, I would say I would take my hat off to you first. I wanted to do that, literally take my hat off to you, sister. But if you guys are going to donate any funds to build any programs or any institutions that assist people that are involved in criminal activities or trying to prevent them from getting involved in criminal activities, I would say that you have to engage those people that have lived those lives. Those people that have the actual experiences. I know when I was coming up, before I got involved in any gangs, although they had programs and things, institutions, I couldn't relate to anybody in those places when I went in those places, and I come up in the system. So I could never relate to the people, although they had the credentials to assist. They didn't have the genuine concern in their hearts or to understand where I really came from. So if you guys are going to allocate any funds, I would support Ms. Doris Wright's program and what she has going, or anybody that's in this room to assist and stop this violence in this city. I would urge you and implore you to take it seriously. I wanted to say this in closing. The city of Little Rock has a mission statement that says they're dedicated to improving our residents' quality of life and providing exceptional services in an efficient and equitable manner. So to hold you guys accountable to that duty, I would say, please get the guys that have been to prison involved, those guys that have lived the lives, that have been the gang members, that are actually out here actively doing things. Although we don't have the funds to do it, we so boggled down, you know, with the economical demands of working a job and providing for our children and doing all those things. So we can't get out there and get to these guys that's out here shooting up y'all facilities and out here shooting out people in front of these buildings. And so we can't get out there and get to them, although we have a genuine concern in our hearts to do so. We don't have the funds and we don't have the means to take the time to go do it. So if you guys sitting in these chairs can do anything to assist that, I implore you, and I'll be out of here with that. Y'all be safe. God bless.
Thank you so much, Mr. Webb. Believe we have now received all of the items.
Mayor.
Item 27.
Is that it? All your cards? I'd like to speak. I had my hand up.
Yes, ma'am. Director Wright.
Okay, I want to say to Professor Davis and to your team at Arkansas Baptist, thank you. We will continue to work together. We will continue to narrow the focus and zero in on what the actual issue is. I tried to share with you when we went into this how this is a system, and you have gatekeepers to the system that are going to keep the system in place. And there's most of the time little room for change. And most of our programs that we fund deal with elementary and middle school youth. I applaud the gentleman in Southwest Little Rock. I am somewhat concerned that he thought that all of the money was going to one organization when actually there is supposedly a $5.5 million budget for PIT. So all of the money would not go to one organization. It is spread out. However, just as the two young men who spoke, having been incarcerated, basically spoke very well about what their experiences have been. And one of the things I know, before you can do anything, you're going to be asked for your data. You're going to be asked for research. Well, how do we verify this? Well, that's what this Youth Violence Prevention Center would have done. And who better to do it than a research institute at a historically Black college with over a 60% African-American male population. And I commend you, Professor Davis, for all your work. And as I said, I will continue to work with you, and I will continue to seek funding. Apparently not these funds, because as I said, there's a system in place, and it's designed to keep certain people in certain conditions. And thank you for your support and for the people that came tonight. Thank you. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Wright. I do know there are some other similar cards that have been signed up. Do want to make sure that those individuals know that it's for the citizens' communication. That'll come later in the day. But the individuals that have spoken have signed up for the agenda card. But if you signed up for citizens' communication, that's later in the meeting, and so you still will have opportunity to speak then. I want to share that. I've asked for. There was a motion by Director Wright. I have asked 3 to 4 times for a second. I still have yet to hear a second. With that being said, process-wise, Mr. Parliamentarian, would you please explain what happens next?
The ordinance remains on first reading. It will be read at the next meeting.
So to everyone who's just taken time to speak, for or against Director Wright's sponsored ordinance. It has received a first reading. It has not received a second to go to suspend the rules for a second reading, to carry forth for a third reading, ultimately for a vote. So the next scheduled meeting, there will be a second reading and then another opportunity to have a vote on her ordinance. So please stay tuned for the next scheduled meeting where this will be taken up for discussion. Is that correct, Mr. Parliamentarian?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. We'll now move to item number 27. Madam Clerk, if you would, please. I'm sorry, 28. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the item.
An ordinance to call a special election in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas for July 13th, 2021 on the question of whether to levy a general 1% sales and compensating use tax within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, with which to fund projects, capital improvements, and associated costs and expenses to improve and rebuild the rock, to provide that collections will begin no sooner than January 1st, 2022, to prescribe other matters that pertain to the election, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. First reading.
Move to suspend the rules, place on second reading.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Before we take that up for a vote to go to a second reading, we had a motion from Director Richardson, a second from Director Phillips. City Attorney, will you please explain what you are doing?
Mayor, members of the board, in 2011, at the last time we had a sales tax, we had an ordinance for the levy and an ordinance for the sales tax. When I read the basic statute, I thought since they would both be passed on the same night, you could put them both in one. And I know this is a major issue for the city, so I checked with some of my friends who do sales tax issues all the time, and the comment I got was they always separate them. They think that's how the ordinance is read. And so what I have basically tried to do is to put the ordinance you had before into two ordinances, one which actually makes the levy of the sales and use tax, and one which actually calls the election for July the 13th for the sales and use tax. Again, in consultation with these other attorneys, there are things like the program is going to be to rebuild the rock. That's the logo for it. Words like that have been taken out because it is to be a general sales tax. That can be used for any municipal purpose. And we have some very strict Arkansas law that says if it suggests that it's for a particular purpose, it can't be used for something else. So these are the plain vanilla words left. So it's not new, it's just
The cleanup.
a breakup.
Thank you so much. We'll now, we have a motion and second. We'll now allow the folks we have here to speak.
She read this.
Ms. Ananda Nipper.
Mayor was just pointed out that the titles read were not the new titles. So on second reading, we'll have to make sure that we do that.
On the second reading, we'll do the new titles, but we do understand that it's still in the it's a substitution. Thank you.
Mayor, point of order, we have a motion and a second. Suspend the rules. We need to take them.
Did they vote?
Mr. Parliamentarian.
The secretary says they voted, and so we're on.
No, they didn't.
No, we didn't.
Oh, you have not voted?
No.
On the second reading?
Right.
Sure. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Hold up. Point of order, Mayor. Point of order. My understanding that there was a motion by Director Richardson, a second by me. Then the city attorney brought what I understood to be amendments, which would need a different vote, which hasn't happened yet. We have citizens here who are ready to communicate, just like we did with every other ordinance tonight. We should allow those folks who signed up to talk, and then we can vote on the motion to go to the second reading, and then the motion to make the amendments that the city attorney gave to us. Anything else would, in my understanding, would be out of order.
Mr. Parliamentarian.
The whole concept of 3 readings comes from early American tradition of the town meeting in the Northeast. The town would introduce an object, people would talk about it, they'd come back in a couple of weeks and they'd talk about it some more, and then they'd come back a third time and talk about it again and make any amendments they wanted before they would take final action. We are allowed to, by 2/3 vote, go to the second reading. The point is it's sort of twofold. The point, Mary, I don't know that I heard you rule on the motion, on the vote, but if
I did not rule on a vote.
that really kind of needs to be done anyway.
Right.
And even if it's there, the board could say, we don't want to hear anything, but the whole purpose of 3 readings is so people can come and speak about matters before the governing body.
Correct, and that's the reason why we will hear from the people today. Just because we are having the first reading. So that being said, Mr. Parliamentarian, can we proceed with the people speaking?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Point of order, Mayor. Point of order.
What's the point of order?
Mr. Parliamentarian, you just advised the mayor that we had a motion, a second, and a vote, and then he needed to rule on that vote to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Or not.
Pardon?
Or not.
Well, I mean, okay, then.
Ms. Nipper, carry on, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am here tonight as a co-chair of Think Big Little Rock. I'm also here with one of the other co-chairs, Chris East, and I believe he also has a card later on. I know there's a lot of cards on this ordinance, and so one of us is going to speak. Is it in order for him to speak now, or would you want to come to his card later?
He's actually right after you. So you start, you have the time.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, good evening. I know it's been a long evening tonight, so we won't take up too much of your time, but we have come to you a couple of times before. My name is Amanda Nipper. I'm one of the co-chairs of the strategic thinking group, Think Big Little Rock, which was formed in 2016. And as a group of young professionals and leaders in the community, we came to you with some recommendations for ideas that would help young professionals be more attracted to the city and want to stay in the community of Little Rock. So as co-chairs of that, we just want to recognize our support for the Rebuild the Rock sales tax and for passage of the ordinance tonight to take it to a special election.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chris East.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Directors. My name is Chris East, and as Amanda mentioned, I'm also part of the leadership group for Think Big Little Rock. I'm a resident of Ward 1, and I do request that you vote tonight in favor of allowing a vote to go to the citizens. Now, the way that I understand this is that this is really an investment in our community to do more than just live up to our city's moniker of a city and a park. But also to provide funding for those things that need improvement, including public education, public safety, childhood education, affordable housing, streets, economic development, and all the necessary capital improvements, which illustrate that we don't want to just put money into new projects, but also follow through on keeping the infrastructure in good, modern working order. This proposal is a fulfillment of many of the studies, the surveys, and the committees, such as Think Big Little Rock, community meetings, which answered the question, what do you envision for the future of our city? Many of these recommendations that came from Think Big Little Rock, that group of young professionals, is not just to ask what we should be, but what will it take to recruit and retain talent for the next generation of leadership. And in our way of approaching Think Big, we really, in a lot of ways, believe that we are one of the voices of young professionals in the community. We've put together the report, and now we really want to take it, the sheets of that report, to the streets of Little Rock. I believe it is critical to invest in our future and to demonstrate the love, the commitment, and the promise to make Little Rock a great city for all of its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Gray Moore.
Hello, thank you. I'm Greg Moore. I want to voice some concerns about the 1 cent sales tax. I am part of an organization called Arkansas Community Organizations, and many of us we are as an organization in opposition to any new sales tax proposed while we are still recovering from a year of economic hardship and suffering due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Many people in our community have lost jobs or have had their hours reduced. Many owe rent and other debts. Let us recover from this very trying year before holding an election to increase taxes on our groceries and other necessities. We are also troubled by the priorities of the tax proposal as reflected in the percentage of the general categories. Housing would receive only 4%. The zoo gets 9%. Affordable and safe housing is deteriorating in neighborhoods south of I-630 and also in neighborhoods in the northwest part of our city. Housing for people should be a much bigger priority. Many people in our city have been paying taxes for decades, but they're still waiting to see significant improvements in their streets and other infrastructure. Money from the last sales tax was divided equally among wards, rather than being distributed in an equitable way according to need. Why should we continue to wait for things we need and support a tax that does not address urgent issues in our communities? Please give us more specifics on what will be addressed in each category before placing the sales tax on the ballot. For most people in Little Rock, golf and the zoo are not the #1 concern. We would like well-publicized meetings to gather input from community members on their priorities before patching together a tax increase. We think universal early education for Little Rock children is a real need and would be a great benefit to the whole city, but we have no idea how that 8% would be used. Please give us a plan before you ask us for a tax. The people who have suffered the most from the economic downturn caused by the pandemic will pay the biggest percentage of income if the sales tax is increased, the biggest percentage of their income if the sales tax is increased. Arkansas already rates the 11th state in terms of the most regressive tax system. Give our neighborhoods a cost-benefit analysis of how an increase in the sales tax will help us before you put a tax proposal on the ballot. Hopefully, we are emerging from the hardship and death caused by COVID-19, but we are not out of the woods yet. Let's get through the pandemic first before we talk about raising taxes. Please table the ordinance. Please table the ordinance and the resolution. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Gretchen Hall. Gretchen Hall. We'll come back to Gretchen. I believe she's here. Brian Day.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. My name is Brian Day, and I was fortunate enough to spend about 25 years working with most of you, and I'm now out at the Port of Little Rock. And I'm here tonight to speak in favor of sales tax for our community. I want to take a little bit of different approach in my remarks, and they will be brief. At the port in 1959, your predecessors, the city board, decided to create a port. In the early 1970s, the board approved a $2 million bond issue that the citizens adopted and gave the money for the port, which allowed us to buy some land, build a dock, and build a warehouse. In the 1980s, the city board of directors again approved another bond issue. The citizens approved it and gave us about $5 million to build a slackwater harbor at the port. And then in 2011, the board approved a 3/8 sales tax for capital. The citizens approved it, and we were fortunate enough to get about $10 million for land acquisition. Fast forward today, so we've got about $15 million of public funds invested at the Port of Little Rock. Today, we're 4,000 acres in size, 43 businesses call the port home. Those 43 businesses hire about 7,000 people. We have 3 docks, 7 warehouses, a foreign trade zone, 21 miles of railroad track, and an economic impact for Little Rock and Central Arkansas of over $500 million a year. The tax that you are considering will provide up to $30 million for economic development. Think what that will allow us to do and how we can leverage those funds. We will be able to continue expanding. We will be able to invest in our infrastructure. We will create shovel-ready sites. We'll leverage those funds with outside dollars, both private and public, and ultimately will allow the city to create an industrial park/port unlike anything else in the region. This will guarantee that industry will want to locate in Little Rock, and they'll do what we were created to do, and that is to grow jobs and grow wealth for Little Rock and our citizens. If you look at what that $15 million has done for us over the last 50 years, think what this tax could do for us. This is your port. You'll have an industrial park and a port like nothing else in maybe all of the country. And I can guarantee you that that investment will be worth several $billion in the coming years. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Gretchen Hall, then after Gretchen Hall, Betsy Baker.
Evening. Sorry, Mayor, I was in the other room and couldn't get over here quick enough when I heard my name called. So I was asked to come and talk a little bit about the sports feasibility studies that the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau and the Advertising and Promotion Commission has conducted over the last couple of years, and the economic impact that those feasibilities or those sports facilities could have on our community. So we conducted 3 feasibility studies. So I want to give you kind of some highlights of those 3 studies, and then happy to answer any questions. I will start with an indoor sports complex. This study was originally conducted in 2015 and updated, in 2019. The complex study included a facility that would include an 8 to 10 court basketball court facility, which would entail a 16 to 20 volleyball court hardwood facility. It would also accommodate additional sports such as martial arts, dance, cheer, gymnastics, table tennis, etc. Spectator seating and all of the supporting amenities needed, as well as parking for that facility. Approximately 14 acres are needed for that facility. Included in that study was a financial performance as well as an economic impact study. It's important to understand that similar sports facilities are either a break even, and many often realize an operating deficit. However, the primary reason for developing these type of facilities is because of the economic activity that they can generate in terms of spending, employment, and earnings, as well as tax revenues for the local and state governments. These facilities, for the indoor sports facility, looked to, based on our study, looked to range from an operating deficit of 152,000 to 200,000. However, the economic impact of such a facility would be somewhere between $8 and $9.7 million per year, depending on the size and scope of that facility. Then moving on to our two outdoor feasibility studies, and we hired outside agencies to conduct both of these facilities. SFA, Sports Facility Advisors, and Crossroads Consultings were the two organizations that were used to produce these studies. The first outdoor study was for a multi-purpose field complex. So a rectangular field complex, if you will, that would support not only soccer, but also lacrosse and rugby and other rectangular sports components. The size and scope and complexity of the project was a 12 size field, multi-purpose. All of these studies were recommended to be synthetic turf, although there were price components provided for natural grass. For the multi-purpose sports facility, it was estimated that the financial performance would be somewhere around $370,000 to $306,000 annually to operate that facility. However, the total economic impact would be somewhere between $9.5 million and $15 million. And that is on a scale from a 1 to 5 year component. Most of these facilities, it is anticipated to have a 5 year to receive sustainability or a stabilized year. Knowing that the first year, the operating expenses may be a little bit higher, but once you get to year 5, you have more of a stabilized year and you're producing more events in order to earn more revenue and generate more economic impact. And the third feasibility study that the commission did was for a baseball and softball complex. This complex is recommended to create 4 400-foot baseball, softball, synthetic turf fields, as well as 4 300-foot baseball and softball synthetic turf fields. Those could also accommodate a multitude of youth purpose fields of smaller scale. And all of the support structures. This facility would be about a total of 53 acres needed for that development, with a financial performance of somewhere around $354,000 to $303,000 in operating expenses, and the economic impact of somewhere between $4 million and $6 million annually. So there is no doubt that sports tourism year over year has proved not to be recession proof, but has been somewhat recession deterrent. We have seen a lot of sports facilities and sports events continue to take place in other communities, even during the recession of 2008. We have seen them find a way to operate at smaller scale, even during the pandemic years. So we feel like the development of sports facilities would certainly generate some additional economic impact as far as tourism goes. And then there are a lot of community aspects that are also beneficial and ancillary benefits to our destination. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but wanted to present kind of a very high level of those 3 feasibility studies that we conducted that were produced at the beginning of 2020.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Mrs. Betsy Baker.
Good evening, directors. My name is Betsy Baker, and I'm here tonight to speak in favor of letting the voters get to express their voice on this sales tax proposal. I know you trust the judgment of the voters. They did elect you after all. But you do have an important role as a gatekeeper here tonight of what is put before them. And so I would like to give you a little comfort that a lot of thought went into this proposal, and at least as with respect to certain parts of it that I'm familiar with. I was on the Quality of Life Subcommittee that the mayor appointed as part of his transition. And of course, you know, the subcommittees were there so that all of the residents of Little Rock could make their voices known on the priorities for the city. And that's what we did. There was a group of 18 of us that got together. had a number of meetings, and in typical lawyerly fashion, we had subcommittees for the subcommittees, had several meetings on those too. And we took a lot of time and effort to really think through all the issues, a lot of which you'll find in these proposals, particularly dealing with Parks and Rec. And we didn't reinvent the wheel here. We did start with a lot of proposals that were already out there. Think Big Little Rock. We had a lot of institutional knowledge on this subcommittee. Very young people, people that had been residents 60 years, all different races, people from all different parts of the city, different genders, small employers, or small business owners, to lawyers, to doctors. A lot of different viewpoints, and a lot of institutional knowledge. Like I said, people that had been in groups that had looked at these issues, people from the War Memorial Stadium Commission. So we stood on their backs. We looked at what had been thought of before, put our own analysis on it, put our own thoughts on this, took all the different viewpoints into consideration, and came up with some recommendations which were part of those proposals. They were well thought through. We think the Little Rock voters should have, or I think the Little Rock voters should have an opportunity to express their thoughts on it, and just ask that you trust the voters.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Baker. Miss Angela Duran.
Good evening. My name is Angela Duran. I am the Executive Director of Excel by 8, a resident of Little Rock and the mother of 2 children. We at Excel by 8 are partnering with the city to create a plan for ensuring that every child in Little Rock is on track to reach their full potential. We want to increase both health and education outcomes and close gaps that exist between subgroups of children. One of the issues that we've looked at is the availability of quality childcare, especially for infants and toddlers. Because the brain develops faster from birth to age 3 than at any later period in life. Infants and toddlers need nurturing and stimulating learning environments to build the foundation for all their future learning, behavior, and health. We know that children who have access to quality childcare in pre-K are more likely to be ready for school when they get to kindergarten. And children who start school ready to learn are more likely to read on grade level by 3rd grade and ultimately graduate from high school ready to enter the workforce or college with the academic and social emotional skills they need to succeed. However, in Pulaski County, there are only enough licensed childcare slots for 45% of our infants and toddlers. And there are only enough quality childcare slots as defined by the state's Better Beginnings rating system for 12% of infants and toddlers. Further, these centers are not distributed equitably across the city. Of the 20 quality centers in Little Rock that serve infants and toddlers, only 5 of them are located south of 630 and east of 430. We support the ordinance for the special election. We need to invest in early care and education for all children in Little Rock. Thank you. I also wanted to share that Dr. Chad Rogers is here tonight. He's a local pediatrician and wanted to speak, but he got here after the cards were submitted. So we just wanted to know about his support as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Duran. Mr. Kelly Bass.
Thank you, Mayor and City Directors. I am Kelly Bass, and for the last 8.5 years, I've had the distinct pleasure and privilege to serve as the CEO of the Museum of Discovery. Our museum, for a little history, was founded in 1927 by renowned local author Bernie Babcock. You can see her name across the top of the main branch of Central Arkansas Library. An important milestone in our history happened 12 years later. On December the 18th, 1939, City Ordinance number 5829 was passed, and it declared that the city of Little Rock was now financially responsible for the management and maintenance of the museum. So there's a lot tighter relationship between the city and the Museum of Discovery than most folks who come to our facility might have any way to know. Since that date, we've had a good relationship. We are officially an agency of the city. And the support, financial support of the city has been critical to us forever. Thanks to the city, we were able to move to our location in 1998 in the Museum Center as part of the overhaul of the River Market District. In fact, the lease with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, who is our landlord, is actually with the city of Little Rock. It's not with the Museum of Discovery. So there is a tight bond. The city has supported our museum financially over the years at varying levels, depending on what's doable. And I'll tell you, being included in the sales tax is critical for us as we all work to ensure, and my job is to ensure sustainability. And the Museum of Discovery is a viable force as a science and technology museum with our goal of igniting and energizing young people about science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. A huge break for us came in 2011. We got a $9.2 million grant from the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation, closed our doors, and reopened like we were until we had a horrific flood here recently. That allowed us to refurbish 3 of our 5 permanent galleries. The other 2 did not get any attention then. And we really, really have to address those areas as we rebuild the museum. Again, in mid-February, during the catastrophic coldness and snow, we came into the museum to find hundreds of thousands of gallons of water pouring down into the eastern half of the museum. And so even before that flood happened, we knew we had a real obligation and requirement to continue to upgrade the museum. The money that's allocated to the museum in this sales tax initiative would be a huge help. It would not pay for it all, but it would really, really make a difference. So I humbly ask that you support the sales tax initiative to help the Museum of Discovery and so many other worthwhile organizations and parts of our city that we really need to focus on to improve. I will tell you, and you can ask anybody who works at the Museum of Discovery, we feel like we're kind of a big deal. The scientists and educators who are members of Mensa, which is the organization of certifiably smart people, in 2013, they named the Museum of Discovery the 6th best science museum in the United States. That's a lofty, lofty spot to be. And then last year, the USA Today had its annual readers poll, and the Museum of Discovery was also selected 6th as the 6th best children's museum. We made that announcement exactly 2 weeks to the day we had to close our doors because of COVID-19. So that was bittersweet, but I will tell you, just a couple of weeks ago, we got the word that we are also a finalist for that award. And when I left to come down here, we were in 7th place. So get online, vote for the Museum of Discovery as the best children's museum. In normal years, just to give you a scale and scope, in normal years, let's look at 18 and 19, we drew over 160,000 folks to our museum. And that's the 2nd and 3rd highest years we've ever had in the 90-plus year history of our museum. We had visitors who just walked up and put their money down from all 50 states. And in 2019, we had folks from 14 different countries. Now, I'm not telling you they came to Little Rock, Arkansas strictly to go to the Museum of Discovery, but when they were here, they did. And of that number, of the 162,000, 60,000 of those were children on organized school field trips from 60 of the 75 counties in Arkansas and 9 other states. So we are seen as a major attraction. But you know what I'll tell you is that besides being an important economic engine, and besides being an important tourist attraction, we are an educational facility. We are an important part of the STEM education pipeline and the STEM workforce pipeline. We have many companies in Arkansas who invest in the museum because they see that you better get a child excited about science, technology, engineering, and math by the time they're in about 8th grade, or you probably won't get them to pursue that career. And that's what we do. We try to ignite that passion. So after being 3.5 months closed for the pandemic, things are really picking up. We had a really strong January. We were super excited about spring, which is by far our biggest season, spring and summer. That's when we make the money that sustains us in the slower times. Well, we had our spring and summer likely taken away from us again for the second straight year. So thanks to the federal government help and thanks to some help locally and now from insurance, we will survive. But being part of the sales tax is really critical to us. And I just would encourage you all to support it for all the, and I've loved hearing all the different people talking about the different parts of this package. You know, I told the mayor, I mean, this is going big, and going big is how you make a difference. And so I'm really excited about it, the boost it would give us. So please consider supporting that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. Mrs. Melanie Hilliard.
Good evening to Mayor Scott and the city directors. Good evening. My name is Melanie Hillard, a citizen of Little Rock, and I thank you for the opportunity to support or to show my support of the modest increase in the sales tax proposed by Mayor Scott that invest in the Little Rock Zoo, which I value, as evidenced by the time, effort, and resources that I have chosen to extend as a volunteer. It's my opinion that a zoo can add to the life and the education of all individuals who have access to it, and has the potential to enhance the appeal to our city and the state. Therefore, I strongly believe that our zoo is worth the investment, and here's why. As a child growing up in Little Rock, Arkansas, I remember many visits to the zoo, some with our family and others with the local daycare center called Ricky Lou's that my mother ran for over 30 years. I'm still struck by the fact that many of the children had never visited the zoo and had never seen real animals up close in person. And honestly, probably would not have ever had that opportunity had it not been for my mother's effort to offer them that experience. Imagine watching young eyes seeing and hearing an elephant, a giraffe, or a gorilla in living color for the very first time. An investment in the zoo would allow free field trips to all school children in Little Rock and quarterly free days to Little Rock residents. This increase would strengthen school partnerships and after-school programs. It will also aid in the Zoofari camp experiences that offer wonderful up-close encounters with nature. The truth is, kids need to connect more to the outdoors and to the nature for various reasons. In fact, a friend recently shared that her son, who was born with diabetes insipidus, has some sensory and social delays. And in her search for summer programs, she was told he needed a program that offered a social setting with exposure to various forms of sensory opportunities. After much research, she decided to enroll him in 4 weeks at the Little Rock Zoofari summer camp because of all the things that it offers and all the rave reviews that other families have given the program. These types of programs are valuable, and the increased funding will enable the Little Rock Zoo to continue offering them. Finally, while the zoo has always been an important gathering place in Little Rock for Arkansas families, I hold that it can also be a wonderful source of tourism, adding to the overall city's economy. I'm a mother of 2 sons, and as they were growing up, my husband and I tried to offer a well-rounded education. So when we traveled to other cities, we would seek out zoos and aquariums. My sons still reference those experiences. But comparing them to the Little Rock Zoo, honestly, those experiences left us wishing and imagining what our Little Rock Zoo could be. I believe with increased funding, the Little Rock Zoo can be an attraction that draws visitors, as well as meets the needs of our citizens, especially our youth. Ladies and gentlemen, with so much hate, violence, and sadness in our world today, we all need a happy place. And I ask for your support of the Little Rock Zoo. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read some of the items that are here for you to read, but I also want to notate that Mr. Gregory Moore has already spoken.
Tom, what does she need to read now? These two?
Somebody needs to.
She would only read Yolanda Dreer. Mr. Moore has already spoken, Gregory Moore.
Didn't have that.
Well, I'll give them to you. I thought the clerk would already have it. Just want to make sure that everyone's is read.
Tom.
Beck.
He read.
Record.
This is from Johnny McLean. Happy, my name is Johnny McLean. I am an Arkansas native who grew up in the Delta, not too far from Memphis, and have lived in Little Rock since about 1990. I lived in Southwest Little Rock for about 5 years and have lived in West Little Rock for the past 25. I'm opposed to a July special election and am opposed to a new tax in general. You live in Pulaski County, so you know that all homeowners already pay their fair share of taxes. The city is slowly but surely getting worse, and in a few years, when I retire, I wonder if it will be here. I believe that we are progressing toward being a smaller version of Memphis. The obvious problems are the crime in schools. However, we cannot even resolve smaller issues like litter on the streets, recycling, or eliminating plastic bags, excessive noise from vehicles, and speeding vehicles, and unplanned development, clearing of all green spaces to the west. If you have not driven down South Shackelford or Chenal Parkway along Rock Creek recently, please take the time and check out the absurd amount of trash being tossed from vehicles. If there is no planning for development, eventually West Little Rock will be one concrete asphalt development all the way to Ferndale and the Lake Maumelle watershed boundary. We need more considerations for protecting green spaces and streams like Forest Creek, Rock Creek, and Little Maumelle River. These are quality of life things that encourage people to move and stay here. Sustainability commissions, catchy slogans, and things like picking up litter for one day out of a stream are okay, but we are not addressing the root of the problems. In order to address the litter, you need to educate children, get business involved, and there has to be some enforcement from regulating authorities. Very few businesses in Little Rock even have any recycling containers on their properties, and I'm not sure if LRPD has ever issued a citation for littering. I know I sound like a pessimist, but I don't think that I am in the minority. If the mayor wants to propose a tax increase, he should do it in normal election and let it sink or swim on its own merit. Until I see some real change, I will be voting against any tax increase. Thanks for listening, Johnny. Yolanda Dreer, is in support of ordinance item 29, to call a special election to levy a 1% sales tax. I'm a resident of Ward 5 and Lance Hines is my director. Thank you for your service. From Rhett Tucker, dear city board members, I've seen the details of the mayor's proposal and can see that the new tax will do a lot of good. It appears to lift all boats, be good for the entire city, and keep our sales tax competitive with surrounding cities. I look forward to supporting the effort.
Thank you so much. Now that we have heard
Mayor, you've only had one reading of one ordinance. And we handed out the two, but if you want this to be definitely a first reading night, somebody needs to move for the amendment that would do it as the two ordinances and then have the clerk read the ordinances each the first time. And second or third, depending on whether there are votes for that. Otherwise, the two ordinances will not have even been read the first time.
Correct. And the first ordinance, as you've already shared, is a preferred way, but you had another preferred way, correct?
Right.
So the first ordinance still could stand, correct?
Right, but if the board decides to go to the other two ordinances,
Correct.
then, and doesn't read the first one tonight, then the first reading won't be for 2 weeks.
Because the one I second was the one that we had prior to the new information you're giving us. That's the move, that was the motion I made and Director Phillips seconded, so.
For the new?
No, for the previous one. It wasn't for the, I don't know, Tom, you say we need to start that process all over again, or Mr. Manager, if we need to do that again.
I think that the best way to handle this is, in my mind, Tom substituted two ordinances, are recommending substituting two ordinances for the one that was on the agenda. I think we thought he would pass those out before that one was read, but so I think the cleanest way is just those two ordinances should be read for the first time. And then if there's a motion or a second, then at least at that point, you'd have first reading of the two ordinances that Tom substituted.
Sure thing. Madam Clerk?
An ordinance to call a special election in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas for July 13th, 2021 on the question of whether to levy a 1% sales tax or sale and use tax within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to provide that the levy shall commence on January 1st, 2022, to prescribe other matters that pertain to the election, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. An ordinance to levy a 1% sales and use tax within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to provide that the levy will commence on January 1st, 2022, to prescribe other matters that pertain to the election, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. First reading.
So everyone's aware, we've had 3 different readings. We've had item number 28 that had a first reading. The city attorney has substituted item number 28 to now be items number 28 and 29, and then there'll also be item number 30. So 28 and 29 were read for the first time. Is there a motion and a second to go to the second reading?
Move to suspend the rules and place on the second reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to go to the second reading. Before we go to second reading, are there any questions from members of the board? Any questions from members of the board? Director Hines, do you have any questions? There are no questions from members of the board, so everyone is aware. We've now had 3 readings, but we substituted item 28 to now be item 28 and 29. And then there's also another that's going to be item 30. And so what the city attorney has done, he's cleaned up item 28 that was previously submitted. And now we have item 28 and 29. Those have been read for the first time. We've now had a motion and a second, a motion from at-large city director.
Mayor.
And we have a second from City Director Richardson. There is a question from Director Wright.
Mr. Carpenter, I don't recall 3 readings. I recall that there was a reading by the clerk and.
And Director, I apologize. I meant 3 different ordinances, not 3 readings.
Okay. 'Cause
I apologize. There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it.
Roll call, Mayor.
There's a roll call.
Director Wright? Director Wyrick?
No.
Director Campuris?
No.
Director Phillips?
Yes.
Director Adcock?
No.
Director Hendricks? Director Hendricks,
Director Hendricks.
Director Richardson,
Yes.
Director Webb,
No.
Director Peck,
No.
Vice Mayor Hines.
No.
So everyone, we've now, it takes 8 votes to go to a second reading. We did not receive the 8 votes to go to a second reading. There will be a special call meeting on April the 27th for those items. There will be a special call meeting for the second reading on items 28 and 29. Madam Clerk, would you now read item 30?
A resolution to state the uses of the 1% Rebuild the Rock sales and compensating use tax funds upon approval of the tax levy by the voters at an election to be held July 13th, 2021, and for other purposes.
We've now had one reading on item number 30. Is there a motion and second, take it to second reading?
It's a resolution.
A resolution, I'm sorry. And we will also, what we also would do from that particular standpoint, we will wait to take that vote during the special meeting as well. So we all do it clean. So 28, 29, and 30 at the special meeting on the 27th. We also, since we are having a special meeting, we will take up Director Wright's ordinance on April the 27th as a special meeting as well. So we'll have 4 ordinances at the special meeting at 4 o'clock on next Tuesday, April 27th. That will be items 28, 29, 30, as well as Director Wright's item. Director Wright, do you remember that item number? 27. So 27 through 31 will be taken up all for second reading on April the 27th.
And Mayor, I raised my hand. I'd like to address the board before we go to the executive session.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. For the past couple of weeks, I've asked my colleagues to talk to me about the sales tax proposal, and 8 of us voted no tonight. So anyone want to talk about why you voted no? Director Adcock, can you tell me why you voted no?
Yes, sir.
All right. I just called you out since you called me out last week. No one wants to talk, Mayor. That's all I have.
Again, for everyone, we'll have another opportunity to discuss at a special meeting on April 27th for items 27 through 31. There will be a second reading there automatically, and then the decision will be made to go to a third reading. It also takes 8 votes to go to a third reading. So if there are not 8 votes on April 27th, there will be a vote on May the 4th, and that is how the process works. So again, everyone to understand, April 27th will be a second reading for items 27 through 31. That's Director Wright's item. Then the sales tax items will be taken up 28, 29, the last 3, which will make up, get the numbers, the dissensions together. That would all take place on April the 27th. From that standpoint, I do know we still have other business as it relates to the executive session. And also to those in the audience, we still have citizens communications. We do have to go to executive session briefly, and then we'll come back from executive session to do citizens communications. Is there a motion?
Director Hendricks' hand is raised.
Director Hendricks, I'm sorry.
The issue that I had, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that I dealt with. I've been talking to some people since the board has been going on. I want to ask Attorney Tom Carpenter, I have a question for him. May I ask Tom a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Tom, I wanted to ask you, with the vote that happened tonight with the garden, is it anything that I can talk with you about? I've been getting calls even since this board meeting has been going on. And I didn't want to disrespect the mayor, but I really need to talk to you about, to see what I can do to bring this back, because it's going to be a fight between Black folks, okay? And I noticed that the Caucasian board members, nobody had nothing to say. And I think that through our history, Black folks need to know the core of all of this mess. It was nothing, it was wrong for, at the planning land bank thing, that all this stuff started with Director Adcock. That's a white woman, okay? I'm Black. This Negro that came and spoke was Black. So Tom, I want to let the mayor know that I want to talk with you, and I don't think he can stop that. So you don't have to comment to me. I can come to you and talk to you about the vote that we took tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion and second go to adjournment, go to recess for executive session?
So moved.
Second, motion section. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. We'll go into recess for executive session.
What is that date?